What's the crack? Today we're going to do a little bit of a mix rundown of my newest single, Shame. Yes, I'm still plugging this one. Since I uploaded the guitar lesson video already, I thought that I would upload a mix rundown kind of thing as well, just to show everyone how the song was actually recorded and how it was made. It might not be super interesting to general guitar players, but if you're looking to get into audio production, this might give you a little bit of an idea as to how a recording session might look. This project in particular is very difficult to consider accurate because it had no pre-production. It was something that I did on the fly because I told this story already, but the short version is I basically challenged myself just to write a drum track and record it and see if I could write a song based off those drum tracks, and it turned into the single. So because that's where the idea came from, there was no pre-production and there was no way that I could plan what drums I was using and what guitar would go well with those drums and how I was going to EQ things and what the pace of the song would be or the arrangement or anything. All of this had to be done after the fact when I was already given it. I just had to make it sound good. And due to that, the session is a lot messier than I would like it to be. I described it perfectly in the announcement video. It is trying to fit all of these pieces into a box that they don't fit in, and that's what it is. But I'm still happy with how the single came out. There's only one thing that I would actually change about it, but I'll explain that later when we get to it. For now, let's get into my DAW and you can check out what I got here. So what we have in front of us here are all of the tracks. We have the vocals in red, the guitar tracks in purple, rhythm section in green, with bass being yellow and drums being blue. We can actually start with the unused things. So this right here, I'll mute these. This right here is the first drum sound. This is me literally playing the drums. Not spectacular playing, and certainly not a spectacular sound either. Let's head on down to... These are the old guitar tracks. So these were the guitar tracks that I initially wrote for the song, just to get an idea of what the actual song was before I found the tone and recorded it. Serious phase stuff going on there, but anyway, mute that to never ever unmute it again, and we'll move on to the drums. The overheads from the original performance are the original, they're the ones that ended up in the final one, so this is actually the cymbals. Still not the best sound in the world, but it's, you know, those cymbals were just nice and I liked them. They were good. The cymbals have a little bit of EQ and a little bit, well, it's pretty aggressive EQing, but I was just getting rid of all those lower frequencies just to make up room for when I would be adding the drums. And they have some compression there as well, which we can listen to actually, if we would like to. Just to bring the cymbals to life, because that's all I was using it for, was the cymbal sound. This right here is cult drums, which they do really, really cool sort of speed metal, thrash metal, death, black metal type drum tones and stuff like that. It's really cool. I'm actually planning on doing a Cult Drums versus Superior Drummer video at some point, or I have been for months, but I never got around to it. Long story short, it was going to be used on this song, but the song was so messy and so difficult to get anything working that I just went for Superior Drummer. I needed at least one thing to sound not like it was gritty black metal, and that's why I made that decision. But it's in here just in case, and I have Superior Drummer here. So what we have in front of us is the Andy Sneap kit that I slightly adjusted the kick. I added an extra stack onto it, and then the snare I changed out because I just was feeling that snare that day. I like a lot of snares off here, and I've used probably about 3/4 of them just for fun, because it just depends on your mood. And on the drum bus I have some compression and a master limiter, so actually we'll give that a listen with and without, and you'll be able to hear the difference when I turn it on. Really brings out a lot of the sustain, and there's so much tremolo picking and fast moving stuff that I decided that it just needed something that had sustain and some swelling or something like that. Onto the bass sound, I actually have bass and drums both in a bus together, or parent track together, which I have down as the rhythm bus. So let's hear what that bass sounds like. The bass is actually the same track, but I just duplicated it, I believe, or did I? Yeah, they look like they're the same track. But they were just panned left and right just so that I could make room for the snare in the middle and the kick, because the kick was going to be super boomy and I didn't want them to interfere with each other. The bass was recorded in standard tuning and then later pitched down because I decided I liked the sound of guitars and bass tuned into C# standard. I didn't have the money at the time to buy new guitar strings and then restring them and put the guitar into C# standard. So my choice was either to keep it in standard tuning or pitch shift it down. So I chose to pitch shift it down. The only regret that I have with the mix overall, because I mean there's a million things I could say that I would change, but if I could only change one thing, I wish I had more bass in it, because I actually really like that bass tone. Next we move on to the guitar section. This is actually cool if you listen at the very start of the track. That is a ton of effects being put on the end of one of these riffs, and then it's reversed and I made it into a new track. I do that glitchy kind of stuff all the time. It's just fun to do, and then of course I mixed it in with a lot of the staticky stuff that's happening at the start, but we'll let it play so you can hear the guitars. One final thing I'll mention about the bass is that it was recorded with my Squier Classic Vibe. I believe it's in a video or two, so I'll put a card up there and you can check it out if you feel like getting a little bit more information on that. So the actual guitar tracks were recorded on my Epiphone Explorer, Seymour Duncan Black Winter pickups. As you can see, I have 2 DI tracks and I have 2 reamped tracks. So the DIs, again, everything is pitch shifted down to C# standard. So we're just going to skip that. The DIs were put through a TS-999 made by Ignite Amps. Ignite Amps make extremely good quality free VSTs that you can get, and I'm sure everybody in the world uses them, so it's not terribly exciting, but it's there. It's a clone of a Tube Screamer, and this is my settings for the DI. I use the Emissary amp, which again is free to download from Ignite Amps. These are my settings here, as you can see. And then for the impulse responses, I am using the Dyer's Eve impulse response, which is, of course, oh, again, Metallica, because of course it is. Let's listen to those. Did I do the same with DI 1 and 2? Yeah, it's more or less the same settings, I believe. No, the settings are slightly different, but not by a huge amount. And am I using the same impulse responses? No, I'm not. Oh, on DI2, I seem to actually be using my own impulse responses that I actually have a video for. I made an impulse response pack that you can download for free, card, and that's totally fine. I forgot that I did that. Oh my god, that's crazy. But yeah, that is how they sound. So that's cool. And then on the reamp tracks, it was reamped through it was reamped through my Fender Mustang 3, and looks like the only thing that I did was like a little bit of EQ here. So we'll listen to what they sound like. I really don't like the sound of that. Is that really what I got out of a reamp? Of course, this did not need to be pitch shifted because it was reamped pitch shifted. I don't like that sound at all. It seems to not really add anything. Maybe a little bit of attack, but not a huge amount. It's not as essential as the DI. One thing actually that did come out of it, which was really fun, is that my reamp box has this thing where it kind of has some computer noise coming out with it as well. Like you can hear the electrical frequencies from the computer. For some reason, it had like some feedback coming through, or the signal was too hot. So after the first chorus, this. And I just thought that was too cool to leave out. There are no actual effects. I mean, there's the EQ on here, but like those tracks, forget them. There's no actual effects going on the guitars, but on the bus, I got some compression, and then 2 sets of EQ. So I always start out with the presets and then I adjust accordingly. The presets just get me into the ballpark. And then the EQ, of course, I'm just getting rid of some of there to make room for the kick. Get rid of some of there to make room for the air coming from the cymbals and the other stuff. And then getting rid of about 2800 here, because that was getting rid of a lot of the fizz. There was a lot of fizz in this. And then the rest of this here is kind of just shaping the tone to how I wanted it to be, because again, forcing stuff in a box that it doesn't fit in. So let's hear that with everything turned off and gradually bring it back in. Yeah, it's a lot more controlled. A lot more controlled, because that was a messy guitar tone. So next up is all of the vocals. The vocal verb I'll get to in a bit. First, let's talk about... Well, first let's mute or solo the vocals. I called this Manson for a reason that will become apparent now.
You can call me your god now.
Literally because you just have to talk with that fry vocal thing, double track it, and it sounds like that Marilyn Manson-y type thing. There's probably, yep, heavy...
You can call me your god now.
Just to stop any big peaks coming in. And then, this is a trick I actually learned from Glenn Fricker, was that if you do a kind of low shelf, you can make a voice sound less muddy and then push it up to be a little bit louder to get more clarity out of the tone. And I was doing a lot of this kind of like shouting and stuff like that, and it sounded messy, so as much cleaning up as I could do. There we go. That didn't want to load for a second. I also have the Isotope Trash 2, which is I want to call it like a saturator or a distortion. It gives you different drives and stuff. I don't know if it's supposed to be used for vocals, but it totally worked for me. And then, of course, we just had a little bit of compression on the bus.
You can call me your god now.
So that's with the two of them together. And then we have the shout.
Imagine mine! Into your space! Feel of anything else and don't expect forgiveness!
Yeah, so, again, lots of compression.
Imagine mine! Into your space! Feel of anything else and don't expect forgiveness! Cower away! Cover your face! Blood of a rain! I am your god now!
Just to stop those little peaks coming out, you know, it seems pretty loud already, so I didn't crush it. I mean, the song is pretty crushed, but, like, the vocals aren't. We have a thickener and a shout, and then we move down to here, and there's death growls, just for thickener.
No!
If we listen to the shouts together with the deaths... Oh.
No!
It was getting there, but it wasn't perfect, you know?
Imagine mine! Into your space!
A lot of people were actually complimenting my vocals this time around, which is really nice because I was super self-conscious of the vocals. And one thing that I did do, delay, which is just, I mean, delay infinitely helps a vocalist. So if you just go like this, actually, let me real quick show you. There was some comp on the death thickener. Whoop. So
No!
a lot of compression on the death growls because they're so much less dynamic, or it's just difficult to get that correct volume. So any little change just ruins the whole power of it. So I added that in. And then we have the vocal delay, which it has some compression on it as well to help with the sustain of the delay, so that it doesn't just ramp off too much. It's kind of like more of a gradual ramping off of the volume. But I use the spaceship delay, which is just, it's like my favorite delay. It's free as well. You can get it. It's incredible. And when you use the delay with the shout, and actually let's just have it all on so then you can hear.
Oh God, no!
Oh, and it has this, it just has so much cool stuff you can do. And then the saturation, I didn't even need to find a saturator. And then of course the vocal verb to go along with it.
Imagine my into space, feel of it.
And that is just awesome. The vocal verb is another spaceship delay. But it works as a kind of delay kind of thing. What else is there? The master track has this on it here. Has some EQ there just to do little adjustments. It has the slam pub compressor, which again is a aggressive compressor. The TDR VOS Slick EQ, which is an emulation of a ton of very famous VSTs and analog pieces of gear. It has a master limiter on it, just to make it a little bit louder, and then the Restream plugin is just so you can hear me on the screen capture software. So let's get rid of all of those, except for Restream, because I want you to be able to hear me. And let's listen to the song, and I will slowly add all of those effects back in on the master track.
You can call me your God, no. Imagine my into space, feel the feeling of the no respect for forgiveness and respect for goodness you will die. Go away, come in the past, run away, I am your God, no.
There you have it. Thanks for watching all the way through. If you enjoyed the video, then feel free to like it and subscribe. You can also check out my other videos that are up on my channel right now, and more videos soon to come. Once again, I just want to reiterate that this is not necessarily the ideal mixing scenario, and in a real life scenario, well, it is a real life scenario, I don't have an excuse. Basically, I didn't do any pre-production and I didn't do anything to prep myself for what was going to be happening in this song. But at the same time, I didn't know it was going to be a song. I didn't know it was going to be a single. So it probably wouldn't have turned out the same if I had done anything differently. But this is just how this worked in this scenario. And that whole thing in audio that everyone constantly says is, if it sounds good, it's fine. It doesn't matter. And in my head, it sounds good. Maybe it needs a bit more bass, but aside from that, I like it. So that's what that is. And if you want to check out my other music, I'll leave links down in the description. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next video.